friends, welcome to the attic. Tracy here. I'd like to welcome you here if this is your first time and welcome you back if you're returning. I wanted to go ahead and start out by telling you a little bit about my June design team project for Crafty Dragon Creations. This is going to be a start to finish project, so I wanted to start out by telling you a little bit about my process of how I go about deciding what I'll be using for my project, what I'll be creating with, and even the project itself. I like to do what I call controlled chaos, because if I try to think about everything I'm going to use in my craft room at one time, it gets a little overwhelming. So what I do is I create kits that I'll be using for that project to try to limit myself to create with a certain number of things and not get so overwhelmed by everything I could possibly use. This will be an altered book. I started out and just picked up a book at my local thrift store. The basic idea for this book that I chose is I love the idea that the pages were a cream ivory color, so that it would go really well with the kit that I'll be using, and also the pages are a little bit distressed already on the edge. Also a little smaller book, so I thought it would be good for first timers that might want to start out and follow me through the process, since it will be several videos to take you from the beginning to the end. The book itself measures 5 1/4 wide by 7 1/4 tall, and it's a 3/4 inch spine, and those are in inches. I apologize for anybody that doesn't use US measuring system. My ruler doesn't have centimeters on it, so sorry I can't give you those. We'll go a little bit more into depth with the book later on in the series, but the first thing I wanted to do is start out by telling you a little bit about the kit that I will be using. Again, it's from Crafty Dragon Creations. The kit is called Cottagecore Foxes, and I'm going to go through the pages with you and just kind of show you a little bit about what we will be using. It's got 34 pages to the total kit. I have printed this kit at its actual size. At some point in time, I may go back and reprint this kit again and do it at half size or 2 to a page. That way I get a little bit smaller images to use in the smaller book. But we'll just see how we go with that and see if I think we need to do that. To start out, the kit has 34 pages. It has 5 background pages. Has a lovely blue-gray wood grain page. A beautiful text, and looks to be a flower image in the back page. Another blue, grayish, more abstract page. This one has ivory in the background. This was a misprint with my printer, so that's not something that's in the kit, so don't be alarmed by that. Pay no attention to the ink spot. It's got a ledger, and then it's got 6 ephemera pages. We've got corner pockets, regular pockets, tags of a couple of different sizes. Could use these for belly bands or pockets or tuck spots. Then we've got tickets. These tickets have a cool edging to them. Then circle ephemera, a larger envelope, some journaling cards, a trifold booklet with the wood grain in the background, larger tickets. Could use these as tuck spots or as pockets. Then you've got 15 journaling pages. I love the foxes and the mushrooms. This is actually one of my favorite pieces. You'll see this again. And you've got the arches with the beautiful flowers. The fox with the watercolor rainbow. Love the wreath. And the cherry blossoms. Got some more ledger in the background, apples. Fox with the pulling in that wood grain again with the fence and the ivy in the background. Some more watercolor effect. The text and that flower almost looks like a sunburst. Got divided pages here. Faux stitching look here. Some more text pages here. Love the fox with the book. Music note background with the poppies. Then you've got 3 pattern papers. Fox with a book. It looks to be like a plant. And you've got the fox with the wreath and an arch. And then you've got the fox with the butterfly and a little flower. And lastly, you've got 5 writing pages. Stacy's done a great job designing this kit. Got lots of journaling space, lots of space to add ephemera. And that's it for the kit. My next step in the process when I'm designing a project is I like to pick out ink colors that I might use to do some stenciling, some distressing. And so what I do is I go through the kit and generally pick out 3 of my favorite pages that have a wide variety of the colors throughout the kit. And these are my 3 favorite: the watercolor rainbow, the fox with the flower arches, and the fox with the mushrooms. And with that, I use a swatch kit that I created with my distress inks. I have oxides on one side and inks on the other side, and I'll go through and just pick the colors that I think that might match the kit. For this kit, I'm actually going to do a little bit of watercoloring in some things, I think, for some background things. So I'm going to do some inks with that because they'll be more translucent and give that watercolor effect that I'm looking for. And then I'm going to pick out some distress oxides to use for some stenciling and distressing. So I've gone through my swatches and I've picked out the inks that I'm going to use. The distress inks that I'm going to use to do the watercoloring are Shaded Lilac, Spun Sugar, Stormy Sky, and Forest Moss. And for the oxides that I'm going to be using, I've picked old paper. I think this is what I'll probably distress the edges of the book with. Bundled Sage, Dusty Concord. This is a fairly deep purple. I probably won't use this a lot throughout the kit, but I did want to pull that purple in. One, it's my favorite color. And 2, some of the imagery has some of the deep purple in the flowers here, and so I might want to use that for some accents. Tea Dye, Crackling Campfire, and Rusty Hinge. And lastly, almost forgot this one, Iced Spruce. Once I've picked out all my colors, what I like to do is create myself a color chart so that when I'm doing my project, all I've got to do is glance at this to see what colors I might want to use in something that I'm designing. I just cut up some sponges just to make my swatch chart. Some of the other things that I like to get color swatches for or any other materials that I might want to use. This time I think I'm going to use some distressed crayons. I'm going to use the tarnished brass, antiqued bronze, and burning ember. And I'm also think I might end up using some Nuvo drops. The Nuvo drops that I've picked out are Auburn Pearl and Olive Branch. Something over the years that I've learned with Nuvo drops is I do like to clean off the tips before I put them away, because a lot of times it will help keep them from being clogged. And I've also learned that maybe if you give them a little tap on the table to get some of that liquid back out of the nozzle, that can also help keep them from being clogged. I showed y'all that I was using the distressed crayons and the Nuvo drops, but this is how I actually got the colors for those. Is I also have a master color chart for all the things that I have, like the Nuvo drops, stickles, foundry wax, crayons, pencils, and alcohol markers. This just helps me pick out colors and get a more accurate color sample when I'm doing my projects. I also like to include in my kit some cardstock. Since this is a fairly small book, I just chose a book of cardstock squares that had a variety of colors in it. I got some vellum strips that I can add as belly bands, stamp on them, do it as pocket flips or tucks. Got some tissue paper, book pages, sentiment strips, a variety of junk mail envelopes, different sizes, shapes, even have a few colored ones. Got some canvas material and some coffee dyed paper. The next step in the process when I am putting a kit together is I like to pick out things that I might use in the kit. I start out with picking out some stencils. This time I just picked out a stencil from Tim Holtz's collection that had some flowers and greenery in the background. I also picked out an impression mat that I might use. Again, another Tim Holtz. This one looked kind of like a quilted background. Thought that might go well with the cottagecore look. And then I pick out some dies that I might want to use to make some die cuts. Generally always have the label one out because I always try to keep some labels, because I use labels in almost every project that I'm doing. And for this one, I also picked out some wildflowers. Then I picked out some stamps. Picked out this rubber stamp with a floral bouquet. Thought that kind of matched one of the flowers in the kit. Since it is going to be an altered book, I probably won't be doing a whole lot of sewing on pages, so I picked out a stamp that has some faux stitching look that I could use on those pages. Picked out a text stamps that I might want to use. For the cottagecore look, I picked out some mushroom stamps with a little greenery. And also picked out another Tim Holtz stamp with some bugs, butterflies, moths, and a little text in the background. I went ahead and picked out some textiles that I might want to use. Got some natural looking cheesecloth, some ribbon, some natural sari silk that I might use and dye or use it just plain. I go ahead and pick out some charms and beads that I might want to use in case I make any dangles in my project. For this one, I've picked out just some word charms, acorn, some beads, and then the little mushrooms. Picked out some more beads and flat metal disc that I might want to use. Picked out some twine, might want to use to for my tags. Some ribbon, again for the edges of pages, through the tags. Got some textured mulberry paper that's similar to the colors in the kit. I always have some hole reinforcers. These I've just done in a vintage photo distress. Got some doilies, some extra card packaging that had some pretty pictures on it that I thought might go well with the kit. Some flower embellishments, skeleton leaves, ferns, and I also went ahead and picked out some buttons in case I wanted to use that. This just helps me keep my thought process a little more coherent, so I'm not running around getting up every 5 minutes trying to decide what's the next thing I want to use in the project. It just helps me narrow my focus a little bit. I hope y'all have enjoyed part 1 of the series, just showing you how I put the project together and the kit that I always put together when I'm getting ready to start a new project, and my thought process. The next time we come back, we'll talk more about the actual altered book, what I intend to do with the book, and start tearing out the pages and making the pockets for the book. So if you'd like to follow the series and you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button and push the notification bell, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video, and you can follow along with this series as we take this book from a regular book to an altered book junk journal. Hope you come back, and until next time, y'all take care.